Hello, Aries, and welcome. Welcome to a journey into truths that few dare to speak out loud. In love, not every flame brings warmth. Some flames blaze bright at the start, but in the end they leave scars that take a lifetime to heal. Tonight, we step into tender ground, the zodiac signs least compatible with Aries. Have you ever wondered why a love that began so sweet slowly turned into a burden? Why differences that once felt colorful began to crack the bond between you? The answer's live here, in the stories of each connection you're about to hear. And now, let's begin where sweetness so often becomes a chain with Cancer. There are questions that follow us quietly all our lives. Why is it that some loves from the very first moment burst like a divine flame? A fire we believe could warm us for a lifetime. And yet so often, they fade, leaving behind a long shadow and a wound that cuts deep. Aries, you are the pioneering flame of the zodiac. Your presence is always a beginning. Where you arrive, movement follows. The first footsteps that dare to break silence and open a new path. You live with a burning heart, with courage, with a raw honesty that asks for nothing but truth. You love with everything you have, and because of that, you are often the one who hurts more deeply than anyone else. For Aries, love is never halfway. It is an adventure, a battle, and also a silent prayer. You walk into love like a warrior carrying a torch, hoping to shine light and hoping to find someone strong enough to hold that flame with you. But life, in all its mystery, doesn't always send the one you want. It sends the one you need to learn. From an astrological lens, that is karma. The souls you meet in love are not just companions. They are mirrors. They show you your brightest light and your darkest shadow. They force you to see what is sacred fire and what is only temporary glow. Buddhism teaches every encounter has a reason. Those who come, whether bringing laughter or tears, are part of your path to freedom. And in love, Aries, your lesson is freedom itself, patience, and the kind of love that doesn't just burn but also nourishes. Not the kind that holds you down, but the kind that sets you free. Have you ever loved someone so much you believed they were everything? So much that you gave all of yourself. But then, one ordinary morning, you realized you were empty, that you were no longer yourself, only a fading flame struggling to survive. Aries, that is not failure. That is the universe speaking. That is God whispering to remind you true love never makes you lose yourself. I know sometimes you pray in the dark. You ask God, why did you send this person into my life only to take them away? But trust this, God does not take away to abandon you. He takes away to clear a path for another light. A light that leads you back to yourself. A light that shows you what real love is. Aries, there are relationships that begin like a song of joy but end in heavy silence. There are people who arrive to teach you how to hurt, and then they leave making space for a more mature love. And maybe, as you hear these words, your heart is whispering, I've been there. If that's true, then you already know every tear was not wasted. Each one marked your growth. Every time your heart broke, it also stretched wider to hold more light. You Aries are living proof love never destroys you. It shapes you so that tomorrow you can love more deeply, more truthfully. So I want you to stay with me on this journey. Listen all the way through. Because here, you won't only hear about heartbreak, you'll hear about healing. And in each zodiac sign we explore, you may find a piece of your own story. If you do, don't stay silent, share it. Because every story you tell becomes a spark of light, helping someone else feel less alone in their darkness. Love, with all its highs and lows, is not a cruel joke. It is a sacred road we walk to return to truth. And for Aries, that truth is this. You deserve a love that burns bright, that endures, and that sets you free. So let me take you deeper. Because this journey is not only about who you're least compatible with, it's about what you learn from them. Now let's turn the page. And there waiting for you is Cancer, the one who seems like a safe harbor, but whose love all too often becomes a heavy chain on the Aries flame. Love sometimes feels like a gentle rain falling on a flame. At first it cools you, it makes the fire crackle sweetly. But if the rain never stops, that flame begins to fade until only quiet ashes remain. For Aries, stepping into a relationship with Cancer often feels warm at first. Cancer is tender, emotional, wrapping you in their arms like they want to shield you from every storm of life. For a fiery heart like yours, that comfort is magnetic. It makes you believe you've finally found a safe home to return to. But with time, what once felt like comfort becomes a weight. Cancer loves by holding on. They need constant reassurance, endless proof of love. For them, attachment is the measure of devotion. But you, Aries, you love with sparks, with action, with the flame of freedom. You don't want to ask permission just to breathe. You don't want every step to be slowed down by someone else's fear. And in that clash, a paradox appears. The more you love them, the more you begin to feel bound. You're no longer the free warrior, but the one carrying their fear and insecurity. Every tear, every accusation becomes an invisible rope across your chest, pressing down on your breath. You've sat alone in the night, asking yourself, is this really love or just dependence dressed as love? And in that moment, you see the truth. Love can never be built on the fear of being abandoned. True love is two souls growing together, not one leaning while the other carries the world. Aries, this is the lesson Cancer brings to you. Love only feels whole when care walks hand in hand with freedom. Someone may love you enough to want to keep you in glass, but if that love takes your freedom, it kills the very thing that makes you shine. Your flame needs air. It needs wind. It needs sky to blaze. On this path, you must learn not only to say, I love you, but also I need space to be myself. That is the maturity of love, not leaving but protecting the flame through balance. Have you ever loved someone but each breath felt like a debt? Have you ever turned yourself into someone else just to ease their fears? That's when you realize tenderness without respect turns into chains. And for a soul of fire like Aries, those chains are the greatest pain of all. Aries, if your chest aches as you hear this, know you are not alone. Many in this very community have walked the same road. Share your story, because when you speak, you don't just free yourself, you open the way for others to see their truth in the dark. In the light of astrology and in the breath of Buddhist wisdom, let me remind you, love is not meant to possess but to liberate. And in the quiet prayers you lift to God, remember, He never wants you to be a slave to someone else's emotions. He wants you to find the one who can love you deeply and still let your flame soar free. Aries, keep this lesson close. Do not fear tenderness, but do not let tenderness suffocate you either. Your soul deserves a love that honors both your light and your freedom. And when your flame finds its breath again, you'll realize love isn't only tested by emotion. Sometimes it's tested by something else. Rigid discipline, heavy control. If Cancer is the soft net that wraps around your heart, then Capricorn is the stone wall, determined to dictate every step you take. In the landscape of Aries love, Capricorn appears like a solid wall. At first, you may be drawn to their calm, their steadiness, their persistence. Aries burns with fire, Capricorn stands with earth. One is blazing light, the other is a firm foundation. On the surface, it sounds perfect. Fire has a ground to rest on, and earth has a flame to keep it warm. But the deeper you go, the more that difference becomes a divide. Aries, you move by instinct. When your heart calls, you leap as if tomorrow doesn't exist. You believe life comes through action, that a flame survives only by burning bright. Capricorn, though, moves quietly, measuring every step, weighing every choice. They believe in patience, in planning, in discipline as the only safe road to love. And when these two worlds collide, the cracks begin to show. You say, "Come with me, let's dive into the ocean and see where destiny takes us." Capricorn replies, "Wait, we need a map, a plan, a risk calculation." To you, it feels like freedom. To them, it feels reckless. To them, it feels like patience. To you, it feels like chains. And love, instead of lifting you higher, becomes an endless debate about how to live, how to love, how to walk side by side. In those moments, you begin to feel taught instead of loved. Capricorn's reminders and lessons start to feel like a textbook, one that your fiery heart longs to escape. And to them, you look like an impulsive child, unprepared, ungrounded, unwilling to face reality. Two souls mirroring each other's gaps, but instead of learning, you wound each other. Discipline without love becomes a chain. Freedom without patience becomes recklessness. Aries and Capricorn are living proof of that. And in love, we must learn. It's not about who wins, but about how we grow together. Aries, if you're listening and your heart stirs with familiar pain, know this is a soul lesson. God didn't send Capricorn to punish you. He placed them in your path to remind you, your freedom only finds its true worth when paired with wisdom. And their discipline only becomes sacred when it softens with compassion. The love between you and Capricorn is like two rivers flowing in opposite directions. One rushes to the sea, the other winds slowly through the plains. If neither bends, both end up with barren banks. But if they learn to listen, to slow down, to meet in rhythm, then fire and earth together can build something lasting. Have you ever felt like your relationship was a lesson plan to memorize? Have you ever felt like a student of love instead of a true partner walking in it? If so, share your story. Your truth might touch another heart, someone caught in the same battle between freedom and discipline. And maybe the wisdom you've gained will become their light in the dark. Aries, remember this. Love is not a battlefield to prove right or wrong. Love is a bridge. One side learns to slow down, the other learns patience, and they meet in the middle. When you understand this, you won't fear Capricorn and you won't fear your own fire either. You'll see that both are needed to create a life in balance. And then, as we leave this clash behind, another question rises. If Capricorn suffocates the flame with discipline, what happens when love isn't bound by rules but broken down into endless details until it feels lifeless? That's where Virgo steps into Aries' story. On Aries' journey, love with Virgo often begins like a promise. You're drawn to their refinement, their carefulness, their thoughtful way of moving through the world. Virgo enters your life like a teacher, showing you how to notice the small things, how to value details you might have overlooked. And in those first moments, it feels beautiful, even refreshing. For a fiery soul like yours, Aries, having someone who helps you slow down and look deeper can feel like safety. But soon, that light turns into a sharp blade. Virgo loves with watchful eyes. They believe lasting love must be built on perfection, every brick in its place, every detail polished. And the moment they start fixing you, when their gentle advice becomes pinpricks, one after another, you realize you're living inside a never-ending project called improvement. Aries, you live by instinct. You love like the wind, like fire suddenly bursting into the night. Your joy is in the surprise, in the raw beauty of what's unplanned. But Virgo, in their effort to love, turns love into an equation. They dissect every word, every action, every choice. And the passion that fuels your soul slowly dies under their calculations. Have you ever looked in the mirror and asked, why am I no longer loved as myself? Why do I feel like a project, not a partner? That's the Aries experience with Virgo. Their perfectionism makes love feel less like a shelter and more like an exam you keep failing. But pause here and breathe. Because even in this pain, there is a human lesson. Love is not perfection, love is acceptance. No one is born to be flawless. We are born to love and be loved with our scars, our mistakes, our missing pieces. Passion endures only when it's nourished by grace, not by a checklist of corrections. Aries, remember this. You don't need to become a better version in someone's eyes to be worthy of love. You deserve to be loved now in this very moment, even if you're stumbling, imperfect, impulsive. A flame doesn't need fixing to shine. It shines simply because it is fire. And if hearing this stirs an old wound inside you, know you're not alone. Many hearts out there have felt the suffocation of being overanalyzed in love. Share your story, because your truth, spoken honestly, could be the light for someone else who feels the same. And in the wisdom of the stars, know this: God didn't place Virgo in your path to make you suffer without reason. He placed them to remind you that true love isn't born of perfection, but of release. Even Buddhist teaching says, when we cling too tightly to structure, we kill the life. Within it, learn to let go so passion can breathe, so your flame can keep burning. Aries, let your heart grow lighter. Stop seeking approval in the eyes of someone who always sees you as not enough. Because you are enough. And when you truly know this, the gaze of judgment won't scare you anymore. You'll walk forward with steady fire, knowing love doesn't need perfection to survive. And then, after moving past the details that dried your love out, you'll find yourself entering a new territory. A place where love isn't dissected by perfection, but burned alive by intensity, secrecy, and power. That's when Scorpio steps into your story. Among all of Aries' love stories, few are as mesmerizing and as challenging as the one with Scorpio. From the very first moment, the attraction bursts like lightning in the night. Aries carries a blazing fire, while Scorpio radiates the mysterious depth of the ocean. One is direct, sharp, like an arrow in flight. The other is secretive, profound, like a bottomless abyss. It's this opposition that creates a pull almost impossible to resist. When Aries and Scorpio enter each other's orbit, the world feels like it explodes. Everything intensifies. Every glance, every touch charged with consuming energy. You believe you found a love both passionate and sacred, a bond unbreakable. But when fire meets water, the magic often doesn't last. Aries, you long for transparency. You need a love that is clear, where hearts hide nothing, where everything can be named out loud. But Scorpio, driven to guard their secrets, holds much in silence. And that silence, instead of peace, becomes a chasm. It plants doubt, leaving you unsure what is real and what mask they are wearing. Meanwhile, Scorpio looks at you and sees impulsiveness, heat, unpredictability. They fear that if they open fully, your fire will burn everything down, so they choose control. And suddenly, love, which should have been a partnership, turns into a battlefield. One side demanding freedom, the other power. One side seeking light, the other trusting only the dark. Have you ever lived a love that felt like a chess match? Every move, every word analyzed, held back, like pieces in a power game. If you have, then you know the suffocation of a love that stops being love and becomes only a contest of control. And when love turns into war, no one truly wins, only two broken hearts and abandoned dreams. Aries, this is the lesson Scorpio leaves behind. Love is not about domination. It is not about forcing your will on another soul. Love is about liberation. Fire and water can merge, but only if both learn to soften. Otherwise, all that remains is smoke, a love dissolving into mist. In this moment, remember, you don't need to win in love. You need to live true in love. God did not create love to be a war zone. He created it as shelter, as a miracle where two souls grow together. So if you find yourself pulled into an endless battle, know this: walking away is not failure. It is courage. It is protecting the sacred flame inside your heart. And if you've loved someone who turned love into a game of power, share it. You'll be surprised how many hearts were caught in that same storm. And in sharing, we heal. In truth, we reclaim freedom. Aries, etch this into your heart. Real love doesn't need a winner or a loser. It needs two hearts willing to lower their pride to see each other in raw honesty. And when you learn this, you'll no longer be haunted by battles, but will treasure the connections that let you be yourself. And then, as you step out of that storm of power, another space opens. There, love is no longer consumed by control, but wrapped instead in a fog of dreams and illusions. And waiting there is Pisces, ready to test the Aries flame in a completely different way. In the map of Aries love, few journeys are as beautiful and as fragile as when you step into the world of Pisces. From the very first moment, you feel their tenderness, their dreamy aura, like ripples gliding across a still lake. Pisces gives you whispers light as smoke, glances that make you believe you've entered a fairy tale. And for a heart that craves passion, Aries, it's easy to be swept away, to believe this must be a love touched by magic. But the deeper you go, the clearer it becomes. That world feels like a dream without an ending. Everything is beautiful but blurred. Every promise sounds sweet but slips through your hands. Aries needs clarity, needs light to guide the way. Yet Pisces wanders in the fog of emotion, where the line between love and illusion grows so thin you no longer know where you stand. Aries, you are fire, and fire needs air, needs clarity to keep burning bright. But when you step into Pisces' realm, you start to lose your footing. You reach out to hold something and only catch smoke sliding through your fingers. You ask a question, but receive only roundabout answers or silence. And slowly you realize you are loving an illusion, something living more in dreams than in reality. Have you ever loved someone, yet always had to guess, to wait, to live in uncertainty? Have you ever walked endlessly in fog, never sure where tomorrow would lead? That is what it feels like for Aries with Pisces. Not every dream is love. Sometimes it's only a veil that hides the truth. But even in this pain, there is healing light. Pisces teaches you that love cannot live only in imagination. It must exist in the real world, in every steady hand you hold, in every moment of presence, in every honest word. You learn that true love doesn't need dazzling dreams. It needs truth to nourish the soul. And when you finally step out of that mist, Aries, you find yourself stronger. You understand love is not meant to make us lose our way, but to bring us home. You understand your heart cannot remain covered in illusions forever. It needs clear light to ignite again. This is the deeper message. You deserve to be loved in truth, not in fantasies. If you've ever been in a love that left you guessing, share it. because you are not alone. Many have walked in that same fog, trading time and tears for something that wasn't real. When you share, you not only free yourself, you become a guide for someone still stumbling in their own confusion. Aries, remember this, real love doesn't lead you astray, it brings you closer to yourself. And when you know this, you won't wander lost in the mist anymore. You'll walk forward with clear eyes, with a proud flame, with a free heart. And now, after passing through all of these lessons, it's time to name Aries' greatest love mistake, Cancer, a place where sweetness once enchanted you, but over time became a weight too heavy to carry. On the long journey of an Aries heart, few challenges leave such a lasting mark as love with Cancer. From the very beginning, Cancer enters your life like cool water, soothing the fire that burns inside you. Their care, their tenderness, their gentle presence makes you feel like you've finally found a home, arms that listen, that heal. For a soul that longs to be seen and loved, Aries, it feels like a miracle. You believe you've touched safe love, a place to rest after the storms. But over time, what once made you feel cherished begins to turn into chains. Cancer's endless care no longer feels like love, but possession. They want you close, they want you dependent, they want you returning to them at every moment. And for a flame like Aries, that bond soon feels suffocating. You begin to feel your fire is no longer free to burn, but trapped in a cage of affection. Aries needs action, wide skies and unpredictable roads. Cancer needs certainty, stillness, the comfort of knowing tomorrow in advance. And so love stops being a path walked together and becomes a rope pulled tight. One fears loss, the other fears being caged. And sometimes what we think is love is only the fear of being abandoned. But fear cannot feed the flame. It can only put it out. Some loves leave scars, and love with Cancer often does. At first, it's so sweet you think you'll never want to let go, but as you go deeper, the wounds pile up, until one day when you finally step away, you carry a scar that never fades. But listen closely, Aries, the scar is not failure. It is proof you loved with all your heart, and it is that scar that teaches you who is truly worthy to stay. Real love doesn't bind, it lifts. It doesn't possess, it frees. It doesn't make you live in fear, it gives you wings to fly higher. When you understand this, you will no longer look at Cancer with resentment but with gratitude, because they gave you a great lesson, to know the difference between love and the chains disguised as love. If you've ever lived through a love that left you suffocated, held too tightly in arms you once thought you needed, share your story. Who was your love mistake? Don't be afraid to speak it out, because your story may become the light for someone else, someone still lost in their own darkness. In sharing, we find healing. In truth, we find freedom. Aries, your journey in love is never simple. The flame always comes with trials, but it's those very trials that shape your soul, that make you stronger, clearer, brighter. Don't fear the wounds, for they are witnesses to the love you once gave. And believe this, behind every mistake, behind every loss, there is always a true love waiting. A love that doesn't bind but sets you free. A love that doesn't burn you out, but nourishes the fire in your heart. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this video. I wish you, Aries, a love that frees, not binds. A love that feeds the fire, not smothers it. May your journey of the heart always be filled with light and with peace.